In this video, we're going to step through creating a build of our Unity project. I have a very simple project in here to test this out on. There was a previous video on how to set up a quit button where we just play and we click on it and it's supposed to quit out of the application. Quit buttons don't work in the Unity editor, but we did print to the console that it was clicked, so we do know that it's working. Quit buttons only work, or quit commands only work in a build, so this will be a good test to make sure that our build is working. So as far as builds go, your instructor will most likely have very specific instructions on the type of build that they want, the settings that they want. I'm going to show you how to change them, and I'm going to be specific for SGD 113. So if you're in 113, this is how you're doing your builds, but if this is for a different class, make sure you know what your instructor wants for you. So the first things to do is when you are ready to do a build, make sure that you save. And I know I have not saved because I see the asterisk next to the scene name. So I'm going to hit Control S to save before I do my build. I also want to make sure that I have saved any scripts, and it's just a good habit to get into to close your Visual Studio to 100% make sure that you did save all of your scripts. I'm then going to go to File, Build Settings. And this is where we're going to need to set up some stuff. The first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that the scenes that we plan to build are in Scenes in Build. A lot of projects, it might be very simple. It might just be one scene for the entire project. And if that's the case, that's very easy. We can just go to our Scenes folder, drag and drop and add it in, or you can click Add Open Scenes. When you start doing more complex projects and you have multiple scenes, it's very important to make sure that all of those scenes are in here. Rather than going one by one and opening up all of them and clicking Add Open Scenes, just drag and drop them from your Scenes folder into here. If you do have multiple scenes, it's very important to make sure that the very first scene in here is the one that you want the build to start on. And if you're doing like practice builds, or you're just trying to test out a specific level in a multi-level project, it's very easy to drag and move these scenes around so that your build will start on the scene that you want. Once that's good to go, we need to go to the player settings. I guess before we go into that, make sure that you are on PC, Mac, and Linux standalone. We do build for Windows. If you work on a Mac at home, you do need to make sure that you're taking some time to come into campus and you build on a Windows machine and test it out, since if you have a Mac at home, you won't be able to know if your Windows build works. So make sure that you are doing this type for Windows. We can then go to player settings, and we're going to make sure that a couple things are set specifically. The first one is we do not want to build in full screen. We want to make sure that we are in windowed. For SGD 113, we always do a windowed build. Once you have that changed, we need to make sure that the default screen width and height matches what you've been working in. And it should usually by default, but we always work in 1024 by 768. These two numbers should match what your game window is set to, because if you remember, our canvas is set to that specific resolution, the game window is set to that specific resolution, so we want to make sure that our build is built to that too, or you're going to have some UI issues. After that, we want to make sure that we come up here and give it a company name and product name. Your company name can just be your name. Product name can be what the project is. If you're making a specific project for class, just change that product name to that, and that's fine. Don't skip this step. The reason you have to do this is if you have to change from full screen to windowed, it might not auto kick into doing it correctly as windowed. The way to kind of force it into that is to come up here and make changes to the company name or product name. This kind of forces it into windowed mode once you make that change. So take the time to first change your resolution and then come up and give it a company name and product name so that we know it's forced into a windowed mode. Once that's done, we can close this and then we can actually do our build. So once you have that all good to go, we're going to click build and run. And we want to tell it where to do our build. We do not want to build inside of our project. The reason is we're going to get multiple files, we're going to get some extra folders, and we don't want to accidentally, if we make a mistake and our build is just complete garbage, it's easier sometimes just to delete everything associated with that build and build it again. And we don't want to have to try to pick those files out of our project. So we want to make sure that we go up a level. If you're working on an SGD computer in a lab, you should be working on the D drive. The computer I'm currently working on does not have a D drive, so you're going to have to pretend that this is the D drive. But go out of your project and make a new folder to build in. Don't just build into the C or D drive. So I'm just going to right click in here, go to new, and create a new folder. I'm going to name this quit button, and then build on the end of it. I'm giving it the same name as the project, with build all in caps on the end. This way it's going to be easy to find these because you could sort, later on when it's time to submit, it'll be easy to locate your project and your build so that you're not like hunting for things. So whatever you had to name your project, name a new folder, the same thing, but with build on the end. I'll then select that folder, and that is where we're going to do our build. So it's going to take a moment and build out. Usually, let's see, there it goes. It's not a very big project, so it shouldn't take too long, but it is going to be spitting out a bunch of stuff, and that's why it's imperative you do not build into your project. You need to go up a level, create a new folder to hold everything, and build into that folder. Don't just throw it on your desktop. Don't just throw it on the C or D drive, because you're going to miss things that make this work correctly. And it looks like it's almost done. And since we hit build and run, it is going to run when it's completed. And this is what we get. Notice it is windowed. If your build is not windowed, even though you specified it to be windowed, the reason is probably because you didn't make the change to the name. If you need to go back and forth, just always update like that name or the name of the project, and it should force it into that. And we have our quit program. And now we can finally test to see if this quit button works. So I'm going to click it, and it did exit out. So we do have a successful build. All right, hopefully this was useful. I would definitely make a couple notes to yourself on the process of going through this, because it is very specific, and it's very specific also for our classes. So make sure that you understand what kind of build needs to be done for your class and what settings need to be done. If we go and locate where I built that to, here's my project and here's my build. And if we go inside that folder, we have two new folders, and 3 files. In order for this build to work, we need all of this. So you can't just hand this executable off to somebody and expect it to work. Like if you're going to submit it, this executable will not run. You need everything in here. That's why we built the separate new folder to hold it all. There's going to be another video on how to submit and how to kind of transfer this stuff around. So if you need that information, look for the next video in this series that talks about that.